All right, so we'll start with the BOGOs first and then work our way up. So this casket style knife is the MN3DE, price point $30. Overall length is 5.25 inches, blade length is 2.9 inches, and it has a sweet double-edged design, so you know you can't go wrong there. The handle length is 3.25 inches, handle thickness is 0.33, and the weight is 2 ounces. Has a pretty smooth action. I really like this knife. It has a very sleek and smooth design. The blade is pretty razor sharp. The only issue is with this backside right here. It seems to be rubbing up against the handle um, when you depress the button in and out. So it really dulled that edge up into like the apex of where you start to get to the spear point. So onto the cardboard cutting. That left side of the blade was pretty razor sharp, but that right side again was pretty dull. I tested each of these knives approximately for about 8 or 6 minutes. If you see the edge get caught up, don't blame the knife. These are actually very sharp. I did the testing with the Firecracker Tanto and the Stinger beforehand, so my hands are pretty tired. I don't do a lot of testing like this, and the cardboard is fairly thick, so it actually made for some good testing. The edge retention on these are pretty fantastic. You know, most small knives, they don't really hold up that well, especially for cutting up boxes, especially thick ones. It didn't specify the blade steel in the specs, but I'm going to assume that it's just 440C, but heat treated really well. And they're very sharp well after cutting boxes for 6 or 8 minutes straight. So next up we have the MN3T. The overall length is 5.25 inches, blade length 2.9 inches, blade style is Tanto. The handle length is 3.25, handle thickness is 0.33, and the overall weight is 2 ounces. I like how this one has texture on it versus the dagger. Just the aircraft aluminum is super sleek, so there's really no grip on that one, but this one feels a little bit more comfortable in the hands, like you have something to hold on to. Moving on to testing, this one had no issues whatsoever slicing through the cardboard. I really do like these firecrackers. They're not too expensive and aren't poorly made either, and the edge retention again is pretty good. While doing the testing for the review, I never realized till now how tiring it can be cutting down box after box, but now I pretty much know how it feels to have arthritis. Alright, next we'll be moving on to its durability test. So what we're testing here is the spring and its durability, and it's pretty tough. They didn't have a single misfire. So next up is the MNU2T Tanto, priced at $50. Overall length is 5.82 inches. Blade length is 2.28 inches. This one has a handle length of 3.58 inches, and the blade material on this one is 7CR17 with a blade hardness of 55 to 57 Rockwell. Handle thickness is 0.33 inches, and the ounce on this one is 1.3 ounces. This one also has a nice slim design to it, but it's not too sleek. It does have some jimping around it, so it does give you a better grip. The spring on this one is really tough. It does give your thumb a workout. I'm not sure if all of them are like this or if it's just this particular one that I got, but that one does have a pretty tough spring in there. So moving on to testing, if you see the blade get caught up again, that's just me. This one actually slices through the cardboard pretty good like butter, even though the boxes are pretty thick. So after a good couple of minutes of cutting some boxes, it still retained its edge very well and it's still very sharp. Next up is the TK Pro Mini Firecracker Stinger. This one starts off at $90. The blade material is D2. The overall length is 5.63 inches. The handle length is 3.23 inches. The blade length is 2.4 inches and the blade thickness is 2.24 millimeters with a drop point design. On this one, I really would have liked to have seen some jimping around the edges like the Tanto had. Just this one is a little bit more slippery as well, like the first one. Just that aircraft aluminum is so slick. But I really like how this one feels in your hands. It's like holding a chapstick or like a big lighter. It just has a nice feel to it. One of the other things I really like about this knife is the jimping on the button. As you can see, the jimping goes outwards like a staircase, and when you push your thumb against it, it grips it a lot more than the ones that go inwards. You can't grip it as well, your finger just slides off of it. I really would have loved to have seen this switch on the Tanto because it would have just made it so much easier to grip since it is slimmer. You could kind of see what I mean, how the design and texture grips the thumb differently. Yeah, that design and texture on the Stinger just grips your thumb a lot better. There's always room for improvement, but you can't go wrong with either one in my opinion. That 7CR17 is just as good as the D2. This one also had no problem cutting through the cardboard. It was basically like a scalpel going through flesh. And I didn't even feel a noticeable difference afterwards doing the paper test. Right, so on to the durability test. They performed really well, just like the others, without a single misfire. They really do have some good springs on them. Alright, so moving on to testing that mini glass breaker on the Stinger. When it came to the glass breaker, I didn't quite know what to expect, but it really did underperform here. And I pretty much flattened out the glass breaker trying to break that bottle. I had another TAC OTF with a glass breaker, so I wanted to see if there would be a difference, but there wasn't. It's really thick glass and you do have to hit glass a certain way. I also had a center punch and it did a better job, but you may technically be applying more force. Lastly, to finish wrapping up this review, the grips you saw came from Dragon Grips. You can read that if you want. They just mentioned they're a small family business who work with the special needs community. You get 72 in a pack, and they are very thin. I don't know how to explain the texture. It's not like sandpaper or rubber, but it provides a good grip. And again, I just wish the Stinger had some jimping around the sides because your finger does tend to slip when you push up on the button. I also ended up putting some on my Spyderco for more grip as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out TacKnives.